We have made incredible progress. I don't think there's ever been a president elected who in this short period of time has done what we've done.
I think we've had one of the most successful 13 weeks in the history of presidency.
No administration has accomplished more in the first 90 days. I think we are going to have a big win soon. We're going to have some great legislative victories in the very near future.
First, they go big, then they go home. Donald Trump had been bullish, as you see there, about these first 90 days of his presidency. But now, bracing for an actual policy review of his record, Trump is packing it in. Friday, announcing, quote, "No matter how much I accomplished during the ridiculous standard of the first 100 days, and it has been a lot, including Supreme Court, media will kill." This afternoon, he told reporters the looming assessment of his 100 days doesn't matter, and was asked about his claim that he would get tax and health care reform done in short order.
You're going to do health care and tax reform?
We'll see what happens. No particular rush, but we'll see what happens. But healthcare is coming along well.
You think you're going to get a health care vote next week?
100 days?
No, doesn't matter if it's next week. Next week doesn't matter.
You got that? It doesn't matter next week, and 100 days doesn't matter either, except for when it does. Politically, there may be something superficially appealing about this kind of rhetoric. If nothing really matters, if no deadline is real, then we can all just chill. And if you like the president, you don't have to obsess over how he's doing or when he's even doing it. You can just sit back, lay in the cut, and trust that things will someday happen. But if you're counting on what the government does, if you're a veteran on a waiting list for health care at a VA hospital, or a patient wondering if Obamacare is going to continue or going to change or end, or even if you're just a big corporation crafting a plan for next year's spending and saving, then it does indeed matter if and when the government acts. Joining me now for more, Indira Lakshmanan, Washington columnist for the Boston Globe, also with the Poynter Institute for Media Studies, as well as former Republican Congressman David Jolly of Florida. Congressman, what am I missing here? Does none of it really matter? Is there kind of a nice sort of Trumpian nihilism that's taking in as we near 100 days?
Well, Donald Trump is right about something. No president has had 100 days like he has, right? We can agree. Yeah. We can agree on that. Look, I think what we have litigated this first 100 days, we know he has failed on policy. We have litigated his credibility. And honestly, I think the country is suffering a bit of a fatigue from a president we know we can't believe. You know, we have litigated and probably reached a verdict that clearly the president suffers from narcissism. He suffers from not being able to tell the truth. But at some point, we have to decide on his policies. And that will include health care, foreign policy, taxes, and we will see what happens. Look, Bill Clinton brought in David Gergen in May in the first year of his administration, and he reset his term. What does Donald Trump do? Because the first 100 days have been a failure.
Well, I mean, you talk about staffing. It's been pointed out many times. Steve Bannon thinks he can't be removed because he's the populist heartbeat. The other key advisors are family members who would be really awkward at the dinner table if they're removed. How do you see, David, that he can do that, and also speak a little bit about them always moving the ball? Here's President Trump at the Treasury Department there.
Sure.
He had previously promised that he would reveal a tax plan within several weeks of February. That deadline's come and gone, and now this.
We'll be having a big announcement on Wednesday having to do with tax reform. The process has begun long ago, but it really formally begins on Wednesday.
Do you believe that?
No. Look, the President of the United States is lying about policy. He's lied about health care. He's lying about tax reform. Tax reform is no easier than health care. When you get into marginal tax cuts, winners and losers, it is akin to when you talk about Medicaid cuts in health care. There's no way the president with zero credibility can sell this, and he has a hard time on his hands right now. I will tell you, I hate to say this, but the smartest people in the White House right now are probably Jared and Ivanka. It is nepotism. It is not right. But when you talk about Bannon and the other political people around Trump, the fact is the only adults in the room, the moderates, the centrists, frankly, Democrats, are Jared and Ivanka. And I think in the long term, he is going to have to rely on them. He is a family business person. And that is what it ultimately will come down to for setting policy.
Indira, what do you think?
I think that the president is right about one thing, which is that the 100-day standard is an arbitrary and silly standard, and it's been applied to all presidents since FDR. But you know, FDR actually did something in the first 100 days. You know, he obviously did some pretty significant things with Social Security and the New Deal, and ever since then we've been trying to judge presidents by the same yardstick. But it is kind of silly. However, Trump also knows that everybody uses this standard, and particularly in our modern media, everybody is, you know, going to be writing their analysis. Everyone's going to have their programs of the first 100 days and their, you know, special graphics and charts. And so he knows very well that he has to try to prove that he's accomplished something, and he's going to want to tick the boxes.
Well, let me ask you this, Indira, because historically, one of the reasons is that typically people get more done early and less done later
because of the honeymoon.
Because, yeah, momentum changes and you get closer to elections. So
that's right.
Isn't that standard somewhere relevant to whether he's got momentum now?
Well, he should have the most momentum now, but, you know, as we've just been discussing, he has not been able to get things accomplished, and he vowed that he would repeal the Affordable Care Act immediately. He obviously was unable to get that done, and when he didn't get it done, he said, well, I never said I'd get it done in the first 60 days, and everyone, including this show, were playing the clips in which he said he'd get it done in the first week. You know, so he's constantly changing his tune. It's what, you know, it's what we all call moving the goalposts. So he moves the goalposts, but I think that this speaks very directly to what he's going to try to do next week. And what he's going to try to do next week is he wants to revive from the dead his effort to repeal and replace. He's going to try to bring in this tax reform. He's going to try to get his budget priorities in. So, you know, he wants to be able to have something that he can put on the board as a success before 100 days.
Let me thank David Jolly for being here. Indira, stay with us for more.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.